Hey, what's up everybody? It's me, Sean, again, and I'm here to help you out with all your podcast questions and, whatever. Today I'm going to discuss kind of starting your podcast and kind of staying in your lane. Creating a podcast, if you go out and look at a lot of podcasts that are out there, there's a lot of challenges that you can see. There's getting a website, there's getting your podcast on iTunes, how do you host, what equipment should I use? I'll probably cover equipment in a different episode because there's quite a bit that can be done there. But what are some of the things I need to know when I start out a podcast? And in this episode, I'm going to go through kind of the first month up to releasing a podcast. So when Richard and I started our podcast, the thing we did is we sat down, and when we finally decided, got our butts kicked and said, we're doing a podcast, we kind of gave ourselves about 4 weeks to get everything planned. Do you need 4 weeks? Probably not. You could start the next day if you wanted to. But with Richard and I, we wanted to come up with a name, we wanted to come up with music, we wanted to come up with all these things, and it took a little bit of effort to figure out, you kind of need to stay in your own lane when it comes to creating the content. And I say, give yourself about 4 weeks to get the things set up. And I will start probably from the top of the list that I can think of on things that you could focus on and things that you may need to outsource. A lot of times you think, oh, outsource, that's not my product then, but there's a lot of services out there that make things a lot easier. If you're not a website guru, there's tools out there to help you make that a lot easier. Music, if you're musically inclined and can, create great music for your intro and outro, jump right in and do that. But, again, if you're like me, I gave that a shot. I tried to create our own intro music and it spent like 2 or 3 days focused on creating that and came out with nothing because I'm not talented like that. So let's start with some of the things you need to focus on. So first thing that we did is we went to, you can use any kind of board you want. You can just do it on sticky notes or somewhere you want, but we kind of have a plan of action. So we went to Trello. It's a great website where you can utilize boards so you can kind of task out the things you need to do. So we went to Trello and we figured out, okay, here's the things we need to tackle. First thing we need to do is we want to come up with a name. It's almost like when you start a band. You're not creating music right away. You're trying to figure out what your band name is, and that's really what we did with this. We started out with a bunch of different ideas, and we finally came up with the one that we really liked, which was the Language of Bromance. Now, that kind of goes against a lot of rules I've heard a lot of other podcasters talk about is, your name is kind of your namesake. It's telling people what your show is. So Language of Bromance doesn't really convey what our show's about as well as a lot of things do. But again, I always go back to, this was kind of our show, and it kind of does convey what we are. I mean, we're two buddies, we do have a bromance for each other, and we just kind of, express that through our show. But, that's something you can take a few days to come up with. The main thing is once you get your name down, it's like, okay, now I need cover art. iTunes, all your podcatcher type of apps, everything requires you to have some kind of image. And again, I'm not very artistic, so I went out and found somebody else to do this. So the things that I struggled with on this is I went to a site that, I can't remember the site of it off the top of my head right now, but basically I went to them and said, hey, this is what I want. And I got back a product that I didn't really like, but I'd already paid the money for it. And I went back and forth like 3 or 4 times. And the thing is that you have to be comfortable saying, no, I don't like that in this type of scenario. There's also sites like Fiverr, which I've had better experience with. But it's a thing that, you can spend a little bit of money on getting a decent image put together. You go to Fiverr, you can get something for $30, $40, $50. I mean, the sky's the limit on that. Maybe even some for $5 if you just kind of want your font and your logo on there, your name logo. So we went with what we had for a little bit, and I found somebody that I knew locally, and he built a fantastic logo for us, which we still use today. It conveyed more of what I was wanting out of our logo. So if you have friends or somebody that can do that, that's a great resource to do that. You can always kind of tag their name into it, or work with them that way. So you get your name, you get your logo. The next thing that you probably want to tackle is intro and outro music. That's the next thing we looked at. So again, intro and outro music, I always like when intros and outros are a little bit tighter, so 15, 20 seconds long in the beginning, 2 or 3 seconds at the end. And that just, if you're like me, whenever I'm listening to a podcast, if it has a very, very long intro, if I don't really like, I'll skip it, hit the 45-second skip mark, and you're going into when they're talking. And that's why I really wanted to keep something kind of tight, because it kind of jumps right into the show. I mean, you think about TV shows. You watch, like Lost. Lost was a show that had a really tight intro, just quick spin of Lost, you didn't have to fast forward through it. I love the Game of Thrones intro music, but it is super long. It's like 2 minutes long. So no matter what, I'm skipping ahead of it because it just takes too long. So I want to make sure that we had something that was pretty tight, and somebody would listen to it and think, oh, well, it's only 15 seconds, so I'm going to listen to this and get pumped up for their new episode. So again, I tried to create our own for a little bit, and I want to keep it tight, but the problem I ran into is I'm not musically inclined. So I spent 3 days trying to figure out with GarageBand how to create some type of music. And it was 3 days wasted. I could have done this other things to try and get our show up and running, but I spent all this extra time I had on creating this intro music. I went to a great site called neosounds.com where you can go and buy music. And again, you may be thinking, well, okay, I've spent $30 on a logo, now I got to spend money on music. In hindsight, it's not that expensive if you just kind of get this up front, because it's a way to kind of get those things that you could spend your time on, but get them done a little bit sooner. And you can focus on what you're really trying to get with podcasting, which is get your content out there. So I went to NeoSounds, and it's great because you can see the demos. They have have 3 minutes, they have 10-second clips from different, music genres, and it's all over the place. I mean, you can get, scary type stuff like horror music. You can get, kind of video game music. I mean, it's all over the spectrum. You can go just about anywhere you want with something like that. So we went in, found some music we liked, and we narrowed it down to the intro we liked and the outro. And from there, and the best thing about NeoSounds is that, the other thing I was kind of curious about when we started our podcast is I wasn't sure how much we would stick to it. It's just like anything. You start it up and you get 5, 6 things, 6 episodes in, or 6 times into something. You're like, this isn't for me. So I really want to make sure that I didn't have to spend a ton of money just to throw away. So NeoSounds does a great job. Is they have kind of a full rights and like a half rights kind of thing where you can give them a little bit of money and you have up to like 10,000 downloads of the song before you have to pay for like full rights. So that gave us a great opportunity to spend a lot less money and start out. It was like $5, I believe. So found our music, paid that, and once we got to where we're at 10,000 downloads, like, yeah, we're going to keep doing this. We really enjoy it. I went out and bought the full rights and was able to take the $5 off of that. So it worked out really, really well. Now, again, like your logo, if you know somebody that is musically inclined, see if they want to do it for you. Or if you're in a band already, or if you can create music, go ahead and create that. But if you're not, make sure like I said, just make sure you stay in your lane. The main thing you're trying to do here with podcasting is get your content out there. So the more things you can focus on that'll help that is better. So if you can kind of utilize other avenues to get your show up and running, go ahead and do that. That's not cheating. That's just being smart. Because you are going to be the voice of this show. Just because you didn't create the logo or you didn't create the intro music, that doesn't mean anything on your show. It's just, that's the stuff to kick it off. If you like it and you accept that that's what you want, that intro or that logo, go ahead and do that because, again, you are just here to create the content. So we got our logo, we got our name, we got our logo. Now we got intro and outro music. So the next thing is, how do I host this podcast? Again, if you are very technical, if you can build websites, I think there's things called like RSS burner or feed burner, something along those lines. If you enjoy that stuff and you want to devote the time to do that, feel free to do that. Quickly, I just made the decision that for our show, I did not want to have to focus on how do I get this RSS feed burner, how do I get all this website stuff put together. So I went out to try to find, again, it costs a little bit of money, but try to find other places where I could utilize that so I could just focus on the content. Because the one thing I know that made me nervous is if I'm spending 20 hours a week just to get this show out there, and that's not counting creating it and editing it and all those types of things, it's going to quickly die. Like I'm not going to be able to spend 40 hours a week on this show. If I can make it a full-time job, ideally, yes, I would love to spend all the time in the world on it, but like a lot of podcasters, this is kind of I say hobby, but it's something that we really, really enjoy doing, and that's kind of, I didn't want to kill that passion right away. So there's a few places you can go that'll host your podcast, and I've had good experience with Podbean is the one I use. There's Libsyn, there's Buzzsprout, I believe one. There's quite a few different options out there, and I think all of them are pretty decent as long as you find one that's pretty well established. So what do you get out of using these? Well, if you don't want to create a website right away, most of these give you kind of a landing page so you can start that out as your homepage. That's what we did for our first few episodes, because buying a website and using like WordPress, is a little bit more of an investment. And again, we weren't sure if we'd do that or not. So use something like Podbean, and it's very good to, host your site or host your podcast. A lot, kind of takes care of a lot of the plumbing to iTunes and Stitcher and those type of areas, and really just gives you something that, you could probably, once you figure something like your RSS feed burner and those things, it's probably not a big deal. I haven't investigated it. For $10 a month, I get unlimited uploads. I kind of have a web page. It's got stats, so that's another thing that you have to think about, is if you don't have Libsyn or Podbean or these places, you don't have any stats coming in, so you don't know really how many downloads you're getting. I think with the feed burner and things like that, there's ways to plug into other things to get that data, but here is something established. I don't have to figure out what I'm trying to look for. And again, I think I'll probably have another episode where I kind of talk about like what stats I look on, but Podbean already gave me that. So it was really, really awesome that, right away I have a website, I have a place to store my data, I have a place that's going to show me some stats, and almost kind of just jumping right into that Podbean community. It only costs $10 a month. They also have, I think, a free option, which I'm not sure the points on that, but it might be 2 gigs. We could probably move to the free version. I think the stats may not be as intensive, but again, if you're not sure, it's like, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this podcast thing, try the free option out. It's a way to really get your stuff going, because you can always take that off and do your own RSS feed and all those kinds of things. But to jump right in and see if this is what you want to do, use the tools that are available, because it's going to give you the opportunity to create your content, which is what you really, really want to do. So we go through, we got our logo, we got our name, intro and outro music, got a place where we store this. So now we need to figure out what day of the week we're going to release, right? That's a very important thing. A little bit of research that I've had on what days of the weeks to release it. Really, every day they feel like they have a good reason why you should release on that day. So in my opinion, I picked Sunday for us to release our show, and the main reason I did that is because as this not being my full-time job, I want to give myself a little bit of buffer. So you think, well, Saturday's a weekend, so that would give me a good opportunity, but sometimes I'm out of town, or sometimes maybe we haven't recorded a show yet. So Sunday really gives us, Friday night off work. You can record your episode, cut it on Saturday, have it out on Sunday. And a good thing too about having it on Sunday is, people are going to work on Monday, they're picking your episode up, or it's there the whole week for them to see, or even Sunday. Maybe they're just getting out of their daily Sunday stuff, or maybe they're mowing the lawn on Sunday, or maybe they're doing some chores around the house. It gives them that opportunity to listen to that episode. So any day of the week really works. Like the example I just made of Sunday, it's there for the work week. Well, Monday's like that. Tuesday's kind of like that too. Wednesday, it's the middle of the week, so maybe they've already listened to other podcasts earlier in the week. Thursday, Friday, you're getting them pumped for the weekend. Maybe they're driving somewhere. So really, it doesn't matter, I think, what day you release it on. The main thing is just stay consistent. I would say that if you have to miss weeks, probably just, this is completely my opinion, but I think if you're going to miss a week, it's probably better to, instead of just throwing it out on a different day, go ahead and wait until that next day comes and the following week, and go ahead and release it the day you would normally release. I think that just helps build consistency with your listeners, and they are kind of growing to expect that. I mean, like with our episodes, they always come out on Sunday. We have a couple listeners who work overnight shifts that, 3 a.m. when it comes out, they're watching it or listening to it right away. So we've got our name, our logo, our intro and outro music. We've got where we're hosting, and now we know what day of the week. So now what do we do? Well, now you get to record your episodes, and that's probably one of the most exciting things that you get to, is when you get to actually record the episode. And my suggestion on your very, very first episode, what I would say you should do, we did kind of a 0-0 episode. I've heard people bounce around this. I mean, it doesn't have to be 0-0. We just kind of called it that because it really lets you test out all your equipment. You get to sit with, whoever you're recording with, or you're by yourself, and just kind of an intro of like a quick, 10, 15 minute intro of like, hey, this is what our show is going to be about. This is who I am. This is what we're doing. And what that really allows is, for one, your audience to be like, okay, I kind of like this. And two, it really lets you test out all your equipment. It's like, okay, well, does my audio work right? Did I actually record it? Because there would be nothing more frustrating than sitting there for an hour and a half, 2 hours recording this great first episode. And then, oh shoot, I didn't know I had to hit record twice on my recorder, or I didn't know I had to have my mic plugged in. And so all that stuff just really allows you to catch those mistakes, because if you have to talk about what your show is going to be about, or who you are multiple times, that's a lot easier than trying to come up with this, redoing the magic of the content. And that's what we did on our first episodes. We just talked about how we met, our show, and it was great because our very first episode, Richard actually didn't know on his recorder that by default it only recorded audio from one side. So in our very first episode, or 00 episode, Richard is only coming from the left or right earbud. You can't hear it through both. So that was something nice to catch really early on, and then we fixed it right away and we were going on our next episode. So in all this, the main thing is, make sure you try to stay in your own lane. Find a topic that you enjoy. If there's already a ton of podcasts out there, I say, that doesn't matter. Go ahead and do it anyway. If you're passionate about movies, do a movie review podcast. That's really what we're going to do. If you're like us, it's two buddies who like to make each other laugh, do that. People will find your show and enjoy it. It's really just for you. If you enjoy doing it and you stay consistent, people will start listening to you. And, if you may not have millions of downloads right away, and you may never have millions of downloads right away, but still, it's something for you to do. And this time right now, there's no regulations on this at all. So you might as well try it, do it. So kind of go through that. So like, you have your logo. If you're artistic, go ahead and do it. If not, there's sites like Fiverr, or maybe you have a friend that can do this. Do your logo. The name of your podcast, go ahead and you can do that on your own. They say try to make it consistent with what your show's about, but it's your show. Do whatever you like. It's your show. Your intro and outro music, I like to keep those things short. 15 seconds of your intro, a couple seconds for your outro. But again, there's other sites that have the opportunity for you to utilize people to try and create that for you for a low price. Fiverr would be an example, and Neo Sounds. Hosting, if you're technical and you really want to do that, go ahead and do it. I mean, you just have to know that you're going to take some of that time away from creating content to manage that. But if not, there's sites like Podbean, Libsyn, Buzzsprout. There's a ton of options out there you could utilize. The day of the week you want to release, again, this is just what's most convenient for you. I choose Sunday because that helps give us a little bit of a buffer if something happens, that we can make sure we get an episode out, because being consistent is one of the most important things. And I guess lastly, just make sure you're having fun with this. If you allow yourself to create that content sooner than later and get it out there, it's just allowing you to kind of build on your success. Again, unless you have a huge audience already, if you're just starting out, you're not going to have a ton of listens right away. And don't let that get you down. Live in your obscurity. You're going to really figure out what you want your show to be about. And as you get more experience, you'll be able to get more people listening to you because you're just out there more. But just live in that obscurity, because you allow yourself to live in that obscurity, you get the opportunity to kind of hone your craft and figure out what you want your show to be about. And more people start coming to it. So hopefully that's a little bit informational for you. I know a lot of times when you first start out a podcast, those are a lot of questions that I had. If you have any other questions you'd like to be answered that I didn't hear, go ahead and email us at languageofbromance@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, we're at languageofbro. You can visit our website, we're at languageofbromance.com. And just get out there and do your podcast. Ours comes out every Sunday. It's Language of Bromance. It's on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, and the Pod Bros Network. Thank you for watching, and get out there and podcast and have fun.